Along remote Pacific coastlines and deep inside rainforests few American travelers ever reach, some of the strangest birds on Earth are quietly living lives most nature documentaries never fully capture. Nobody ever explains this, because these species are rare enough that even trained ornithologists sometimes go entire careers without seeing one in the wild. These 15 birds, spread from the Galápagos to the mountains of New Guinea, were each built around one extreme, documented trait, and by the end you'll know exactly what makes each one nearly impossible to believe is real. Before bird number 1, drop your favorite rare bird in the comments right now. Bird number 1, the long-wattled Umbrellabird, carries a dangling throat wattle that can stretch down nearly as long as its entire body. Found in the humid cloud forests of Ecuador and Colombia, males use this wattle purely for courtship display, inflating it dramatically to impress females. That wattle can extend up to roughly 14 inches, an extreme feature found on no other bird in these forests. Field studies cited by ornithological researchers describe males inflating the wattle while producing a deep, booming call, meant to carry through dense cloud forest canopy. This matters because that same display makes males highly conspicuous to predators, a genuine survival trade off for reproductive success. Over a breeding season, males compete at shared display sites, with only the most impressive wattle displays attracting mates. Most people assume a feature this large must serve some practical survival function. The truth is, it exists purely for courtship, at a real cost to the bird's own safety. A body part built entirely to impress, and nothing else, is a rare kind of evolutionary gamble. Bird number 6 solves the same problem in a completely different way, trading a dangling wattle for an entire dance floor of its own making. Somewhere in this list is a bird so rarely seen that scientists went decades without a single confirmed photograph of it in the wild. Stick around, because you'll meet it before this list is over. Bird number 2, the Agami heron, is one of the most rarely photographed wading birds on Earth, despite living across a wide stretch of Central and South America. It hides deep within dense, shaded rainforest rivers and swamps, avoiding the open water most herons hunt in plain sight. Its long, iridescent neck plumes and slate blue back let it dissolve almost completely into shadowed vegetation. Field researchers cited by Cornell Lab of Ornithology note the Agami heron hunts using an extremely slow stalk, followed by a single explosive strike, rather than the patient standing wait of most herons. This matters because that hunting style requires dense cover to work, which is exactly why this bird avoids the open wetlands where it would otherwise be easy to spot and study. Over decades, this combination of shyness and habitat choice has made it one of the least documented large wading birds in the world. Most birders assume any heron this striking should be easy to find near water. The truth is, its rarity comes from behavior, not population size alone. A bird this beautiful chose to disappear rather than be seen, and it's remarkably good at it. Have you ever seen a bird this rare up close? Tell me where, right below. Bird number 3, the tufted puffin, grows dramatic golden head plumes each breeding season that look almost like a costume piece rather than real feathers. Found across the North Pacific from Alaska to Japan, this seabird spends most of its life far offshore, only returning to cliffside colonies to breed. Its wings, built more for underwater diving than graceful flight, beat at an unusually rapid rate to keep it airborne at all. Cornell Lab of Ornithology documents tufted puffins diving over 100 feet underwater, using their wings to literally fly through the water in pursuit of fish. This matters because that same wing shape, so effective underwater, makes airborne flight comparatively clumsy and energy expensive for the bird. Over a breeding season, that inefficiency means puffins must catch enormous quantities of fish just to sustain their flight demands. Most people assume a bird's wings are built primarily for flying. The truth is a puffin's wings are a compromise, optimized more for swimming than for the sky. A bird wearing golden plumes above the waterline and diving like a torpedo below it lives two completely different lives at once. Bird number 4 takes a completely different approach, one that makes it just as remarkable in its own right. Bird number 4, the crested ibis, was once believed completely extinct in the wild before a single small population changed everything. Native to East Asia, this bird was reduced to just 7 known individuals discovered in China in 1981 after decades of assumed disappearance. Its pale plumage flushes a soft pink during breeding season. From a natural secretion, the bird preens directly into its own feathers. Conservation records documented through international recovery programs confirm that entire population today descends from those original 7 surviving birds found in 1981. This matters because that narrow genetic bottleneck makes careful, monitored breeding essential to the species' long-term survival. Over 4 decades, intensive conservation breeding has grown that population back into the thousands across protected reserves. Most people assume a species reduced to 7 individuals is already lost for good. The truth is, the crested ibis is one of the most successful bird recoveries ever documented from near-total extinction. 7 birds became thousands, and that recovery stands as proof that extinct in the wild isn't always the final chapter. Bird number 5 does something none of the birds before it attempted. Bird number 5, the flightless cormorant, is the only cormorant species on Earth that has completely lost the ability to fly. Found only in the Galápagos Islands, this bird evolved without natural land predators, so its wings shrank generation after generation, with nothing to lose by staying grounded. Its wings are now roughly a third the size needed for flight, reduced to small, stubby paddles. Cornell Lab of Ornithology documents that the flightless cormorant compensates for its lost flight with exceptionally powerful underwater swimming, using its feet rather than its wings for propulsion. This matters because that trade-off only works in a predator-free environment, which is why this species exists nowhere else on the planet. Over generations, isolation shaped nearly every physical trait of this bird around swimming and diving instead of escape. Most people assume any bird that lost flight must be in decline toward extinction. The truth is, this cormorant's flightlessness is a successful, stable adaptation to an unusually safe island environment. An entire bird redesigned itself around, never needing to leave the ground, and it worked. Bird number 6 solves the same problem in a completely different way, trading grounded stillness for near-total invisibility. Bird number 6, the Wilson's bird of paradise, doesn't just display for a mate, it builds and maintains an entire cleared stage on the forest floor for the performance. Found only on 2 small islands near New Guinea, males clear leaf litter down to bare earth, creating a private court used solely for courtship dancing. Its bare turquoise skullcap, ringed by a black cross pattern, is unlike any pigment structure found in the birds before it on this list. Ornithological field studies note males meticulously remove every leaf and twig from their chosen court, since visual clarity during the dance is critical to attracting a female. This matters because females judge the display almost entirely on that carefully maintained stage, combined with the male's dance precision. Over repeated seasons, males that fail to maintain a clean court consistently attract fewer visiting females. Most people assume a bird's appearance alone determines mating success. The truth is, stagecraft, not just plumage, plays a measurable role in this species' courtship. A bird that literally builds its own stage before ever performing on it blurs the line between instinct and craftsmanship. Bird number 7 does something none of the birds before it attempted. Bird number 7, the red-legged Seriema, is a distant, living relative of the giant extinct terror birds that once dominated South America. Found across open grasslands, this mostly ground-dwelling bird runs down snakes and lizards instead of relying on flight to hunt. It kills prey by repeatedly grabbing it and slamming it against the ground. Field research documented through South American ornithology surveys confirms Seriemas can neutralize venomous snakes using this slamming technique before the snake ever gets a clean strike in. This matters because that hunting method lets a mostly flightless, by choice bird take down prey that would kill most other ground birds outright. Over evolutionary time, this behavior echoes hunting strategies believed used by its extinct terror bird relatives millions of years earlier. Most people assume a bird this elegant-looking must be a gentle grassland forager. The truth is, it's one of the more effective ground predators among all living birds. A living echo of a prehistoric predator is still out there hunting the same way, just at a smaller scale. Bird number 8 closes this half of the list with a casque built for combat, not courtship. Bird number 8, the great Indian hornbill, carries a massive casque on top of its bill that males use like a jousting weapon in mid-air combat over territory. Found across forests of South and Southeast Asia, this is one of the largest hornbill species, with a wingspan that lets it glide with an audible whooshing sound. Rival males have been documented literally colliding casque-to-casque in flight to settle territorial disputes. Field studies documented through Asian ornithological research describe an even stranger behavior. The female seals herself inside a tree cavity nest using mud, leaving only a narrow slit open. This matters because she remains sealed inside for months, completely dependent on the male to pass food through that slit for both her and the chicks. Over that same period, if the male dies or is injured, the sealed female and her chicks have no way to escape or feed themselves. Most people assume nesting behavior in birds is fairly similar across species. The truth is, few birds on Earth commit this completely to a single, irreversible nesting strategy. A nest built like a locked vault is either brilliant protection or total dependence, and this hornbill bets everything on it working. Did you already know this about the great Indian hornbill? Be honest in the comments. A field team in the cloud forests of Ecuador once spent nearly 2 full breeding seasons trying to document a long-wattled Umbrellabird's display in daylight, hearing its low booming call for weeks before ever confirming a clear sighting. When they finally captured it on camera, the wattle stretched further than any published measurement had described. Documented field notes from tropical ornithology surveys confirm this pattern isn't unusual. Many of the rarest-looking birds on Earth are also among the hardest to actually observe performing their defining behavior. What people don't know is that a bird's rarity in footage often has nothing to do with how many exist, and everything to do with how well it hides. The 7 birds still ahead include some of the most elusive species on this entire list. Bird number 9, the king penguin, runs a breeding cycle so long that a single successful chick can take over a year to raise from egg to independence. Found on sub-Antarctic islands, far south of any American coastline, this is the second largest penguin species, standing nearly 3 feet tall in dense breeding colonies. Because that cycle stretches past 12 months, king penguin colonies always contain eggs, tiny chicks, and older chicks simultaneously, never just one stage at a time. Field research documented through Antarctic and subantarctic wildlife surveys confirms that king penguin chicks huddle together in large creaches for warmth, while both parents forage far out at sea. This matters because that extended dependency means a chick can go through an entire polar winter, relying on stored fat and creche warmth alone. Over that same stretch, some chicks lose significant body weight before parents return with enough food to sustain them again. Most people assume all penguin species breed on a simple yearly cycle. The truth is, king penguins run one of the longest, most demanding breeding cycles of any bird alive. A breeding cycle that never fully resets means these colonies are always mid-cycle, never starting fresh. Bird number 10 solves the same problem in a completely different way, trading endurance for a hunting trick built on shade. Bird number 10, the black heron, hunts using a trick most people would assume only a much smarter animal could invent. It creates its own shade to lure fish in. Found across parts of Africa and Madagascar, this heron spreads its wings forward into a rounded canopy shape directly over the water surface. That shaded canopy tricks fish into approaching for shelter, giving the heron an easy, close-range strike. Field studies cited by African wildlife researchers describe this canopy feeding behavior as a deliberate, repeated hunting strategy, not an accidental wing posture. This matters because it dramatically increases hunting success, compared to herons that simply wait motionless for prey to pass. Over repeated feeding sessions canopy, feeding herons catch fish more consistently than nearby herons using traditional standing techniques. Most people assume tool-like hunting strategies are limited to a handful of famously intelligent species. The truth is, this heron demonstrates a level of behavioral sophistication rarely associated with wading birds. A shadow it builds itself turns out to be one of the more inventive hunting tools in the entire bird world. Bird number 11 takes a completely different approach, one that makes it just as unusual in its own right. Bird number 11, the buff-breasted paradise kingfisher, migrates long distances every year just to nest inside an active termite mound instead of a tree or riverbank. Found in New Guinea and northern Australia's Cape York region, this kingfisher trails long white-tailed streamers that flutter distinctly behind it in flight. It digs a tunnel directly into a living termite mound, using the termite's own structure as protection for its nest. Field research documented through Australian ornithological surveys confirms this species nests almost exclusively in active termite mounds, tolerating the termites rather than being harmed by them. This matters because that mound provides stable temperature and structural protection few other nesting sites in the rainforest can match. Over each breeding season, the bird migrates specifically to reach regions where suitable termite mounds are available at the right time. Most people assume kingfishers universally nest near water and riverbank burrows. The truth is, this species abandoned that pattern entirely for a termite mound instead. A bird that nests inside a termite colony, unharmed, is proof that some partnerships in nature look stranger than fiction. Drop your favorite bird from this list in the comments right now. I read every one. Bird number 12, the Palawan Peacock-Pheasant, exists on a single island in the Philippines and nowhere else on the entire planet. Males carry iridescent blue-green eye-spot feathers across their tail and wings, fanned open during courtship in dense forest undergrowth. That display is angled specifically to catch shafts of filtered sunlight breaking through the forest canopy. Field studies documented through Philippine conservation surveys confirm this species is both island, endemic, and increasingly rare due to habitat loss on Palawan. This matters because its entire wild population exists within a single limited range, leaving it with no backup population elsewhere if that habitat continues shrinking. Over recent decades, forest clearing on the island has directly reduced the amount of undergrowth this bird depends on for both cover and display. Most people assume a bird this visually striking must be relatively widespread. The truth is, its rarity and its beauty come from the exact same narrow, vulnerable range. An entire species balancing on one island is a reminder that rare and at risk often describe the same bird. Bird number 13 does something none of the birds before it attempted. Bird number 13, the Knysna Turaco, is one of the only birds on Earth with feathers colored by true green and red pigment rather than light-bending structural color. Found in the forests of South Africa, this Turaco produces both colors using a copper-based pigment unique to its family. Its brilliant crimson flight feathers are almost completely hidden until the moment it opens its wings in flight. Ornithological research on Turaco pigmentation confirms this copper-based pigment called Turaco verdant is found in no other bird family on the planet. This matters because most green birds achieve that color through microscopic feather structure, not pigment, making the Turaco a genuine biological exception. Over generations, this unique pigment pathway has made Turacos a specific focus of research into how bird coloration evolves differently across species. Most people assume all vivid bird colors work the same basic way. The truth is, The Knysna Turaco's color comes from real pigment, a genuinely rare trait in the bird world. A hidden burst of red folded inside an ordinary-looking green bird is one of the more understated surprises on this entire list. Bird number 14 solves the same problem in a completely different way, trading pigment for pure motion and sound. Bird number 14, the red-billed streamertail, trails two tail feathers so long and thin that they produce an audible whirring hum in flight, unlike any sound the birds before it on this list make. Found only in Jamaica, where it's known locally as the doctor bird, this hummingbird is the country's national bird. Those twin streamers can stretch well beyond the length of its entire body. Field research documented through Caribbean ornithological surveys confirms the humming sound comes directly from air moving across those elongated tail feathers during rapid flight. This matters because that same feature, while visually striking, adds real aerodynamic drag the bird must compensate for with its rapid wing beats. Over each mating season, males with longer, better maintained streamers are generally favored during courtship displays. Most people assume a hummingbird's sound always comes from its wings alone. The truth is, this species' most recognizable sound comes from its tail, not its wing beats. A tail built to hum through the air turns simple flight into something closer to a signature sound. Have you ever seen a bird this rare, up close? Tell me, where? Right below, bird number 15, the Kakapo, closes this list as the world's only flightless, nocturnal parrot and one of the rarest birds alive today. Native to New Zealand, this heaviest of all parrot species lost the ability to fly after evolving for millions of years without land predators, much like the flightless cormorant earlier on this list. Every single wild kakapo alive today is individually named and tracked by conservationists. Conservation program records confirm the kakapo uses a lek mating system where males dig bowl-shaped depressions and produce a deep booming call carrying over a mile to attract females. This matters because that low frequency makes the sound's exact source difficult to pinpoint, an unusual trait for a mating display. Over recent decades, the wild population dropped low enough that every bird is now monitored by hand under an active national recovery program. Most people assume a bird this rare must already be beyond saving. The honest truth is closer to the edge. The kakapo remains critically endangered, and its survival still depends entirely on continued conservation work. 15 birds, each one proof that nature is still stranger and more inventive than most people ever get shown. That's every bird on this list. The ones that survive rarity best are the ones we choose to actually protect. Beyond the 15 birds already covered, a few extra documented facts round out this picture. The long-wattled Umbrellarbird's booming call has been recorded traveling well over half a mile through dense cloud forest canopy, farther than most ground-level bird calls carry. The black heron's canopy feeding technique has been observed in only a small handful of heron species worldwide, making it one of the rarest documented hunting strategies in the entire heron family. The Kakapo's total wild population once dropped low enough that the entire species existed on a handful of predator-free islands, a scale of rarity almost none of the other birds on this list have faced. That single fact should reframe how you look at every common bird you see tomorrow. You just got documented, research-backed bird facts most channels never bother verifying. That's what every video here delivers, so subscribe and turn on the bell. 15 birds, 15 completely different ways of surviving, hiding, or standing out. And most of them are rarer than almost anything a typical American backyard will ever show you. Rare doesn't always mean fragile, but on this list, several of them genuinely are. Why? If one of these 15 birds is already on your personal bucket list to see in the wild, tell me which one down in the comments, and let me know which one surprised you the most. The Bird's Garden will keep bringing you documented bird facts, one honest video at a time.